Hi Stampers, it's Lisa with Queen Bee Creations. Get rid of that echo. Welcome everyone to our online class today. We are on a Monday, so we're doing our advanced cards today. They're not super advanced, but I think you're going to love it. We've done something similar before where we've just kind of glued down this side, and then when you open the card, this piece is stationary. Well, for today's card, it actually swings. So I'm going to be teaching you how I made this fold, but then I'm also going to bring out and flip it the other way, and we're going to do it landscaped. Again, this is a fold you see all the time that I do that opens like this with it stationary, and this time it's going to swing. So it's called a swing fold, and we're going to do landscape and portrait, and I can't wait to show you how it's done. So let me put you down onto my desk. We are using the Crafting with You bundle. This is a bundle that's been around for a while, but I really like it, and we haven't used it in a while, so I thought I would pull it out. And then we have the dies that go with it. As always, several of the dies will cut pieces out that are stamped. And then there's some dies that you can just cut out and can be used individually, and there is no coordinating stamp. But this is a super fun bundle, especially for those of us crafters. So we have our two folds. For both of them, I used the birthday paper out of the main catalog. Just dropped the name of it. And we don't have the index in the back of the book, so I can't look really quickly and tell you that either. Who knows the name of this designer series paper? It's from the annual catalog, and it goes with the birthday bundle. We're going to start out with our normal card base, and we are 8.5 by 5.5, scored at 4 1/4. And then we're going to, yes, bright and beautiful. Thank you. I knew somebody would know it. And then we're going to score at 2 1/8. This is because we are just scoring the front in half. Okay. Then I have an additional piece. Oh, I'm going to have to cut one. I don't have it, but it's going to be 4 1/2 by 3 1/4. That's going to be this piece here. And then this is going to be 3 by 4 1/4. Yes. That's going to go on top of that piece. And then for the inside, we have our 4 by 5 1/4. And then our sides over here are 1 7/8 by 5 1/4. Now, again, if you're one of those that the 1/8 of an inch freaks you out, hang tight, because we're not going to be using an 1/8 of an inch when we turn it the other direction. Our landscaped card doesn't have any 1/8. That all goes down to quarters. So hang tight and we will get there. Okay, that's not the right size either. Okay, so we're going to cut a few more pieces. Hopefully you all have our trimmer. I absolutely love our trimmer. And it's better than the old one we had. If you had the old trimmer that Stampin' Up! Produced, the blade now is much bigger on here. It's still a little triangle blade. Oops, out of the camera. It's still a little triangle blade, but it is indeed much larger than our other one was. So the other one went dull a little faster, and these last longer. Okay, so that's the piece we needed for the front. That's the 4 1/2 by 3 1/4. And then we're going to need some white. 4 1/4 by 3. So this is actually going to go on the inside, and then I have the designer series paper that's going to go on the front over here. So let's just attach our designer series paper and get started there. Because you know how I am with all these little floating pieces. I'm going to lose one if we don't get them attached soon. Thank you to everyone who is liking and sharing the video. That is how you get entered into the drawing to win today's card. And I forgot to pull one off of Thursday's video. Shame on me. It's been a busy weekend. I closed my class for the beautiful butterflies, and so I'm now in the process of designing those cards, or the PDFs and all of that, and the videos to get that out and in the mail. All the products have been ordered. So when that comes in, I'll cut it all up and divide it up, and they should get in the mail probably within a week. Is the video freezing on you guys? Every time I look over, it seems to have frozen. Okay, in order to get this like swing part of the card, we're going to create this little L bracket here. And we're going to do that by just cutting a 1/2 inch all the way around from our base. So I'm going to take our card base and I'm going to lay it down in our trimmer. And we're going to cut at 1/2 inch. Oh, good. I'm glad it's not freezing on you. And then we're going to go 1/2 inch this way. And we're going to cut from the bottom up to that score line. I'm going to flip it and do the same thing. Okay. So now I'm just going to cut off those little pieces. And then you will see it's just 1/2 inch all the way around. Okay, seems simple enough. Have I lost anybody? Any questions? Okay, so now you can see this is our little L bracket. And so what I want to do is I want to take our flip portion and I want to glue this down here. So I want to adhere it just on this side because it's going to swing with this piece. This is our hinge right here, this score line. And it's going to glue on like that. Okay. So you can use liquid glue if you want to. It's probably preferable if you need time to move things around, because what we want to do is we want to make sure that this bottom layer and the top layer are exact on the 3 sides. So I've had lots and lots of practice, so I can tape it down with the tape and I don't have to wiggle. But if you need wiggle time, you'll want to use liquid glue and then just push it around until all of this is flush with the 2 of them. So it looks like 1 piece of paper when it's actually 2. And then that's our swing. It's as simple as that. Okay. So I'm going to put some designer series paper here as my backdrop. You could also use a basic color, white or very vanilla, and stamp onto this part if you wish. But I'm going to stamp on some basic white scrap, and then we're going to adhere it to the front with dimensionals. So I'm going to bring in our stamp set, and I'm using the easel. So I'm going to pull that out. And I'm stamping that in Smoky Slate. You'll notice when I set my ink pads down on my workspace, I have a tendency to stick them out in front, because if I ever have an ink pad over here, I can almost guarantee you I'm going to be laying my elbow into that. So think about that when you are setting down your ink pads, that you probably want them to be out in front of you to avoid coming down on them wrong and making a mess. So then I'm going to take a smaller block and I'm going to take our sentiment and I'm aligning it on the grid paper, aligning this on the grid paper, picking that up. And then I'm going to use Berry Burst because that is the color of our base there, and I want things to coordinate. It's my favorite part of Stampin' Up! Is that we can color coordinate everything. Our inks and papers and designer series paper and markers, they're all going to be the same, which makes it very helpful, because the reason I came up with Berry Burst is because that's what this color is right here. So I could have made my base in any one of these colors, and every one of them is a Stampin' Up! Color. So it makes it nice and easy. Becky says she has this site set and doesn't know where it's at. Well, it might be time to dig it out. This is a fun one. Okay, I'm just cleaning my stamp over here on a piece of the chamois. Okay, and then I'm going to take the dies. And I'm going to place this down on here, and then I'm going to run it through my die cutting, my cut and emboss machine. And I'm going to cut that out. So here is our easel, all perfectly cut. And then I'm going to use dimensionals on the back. And I've got some leftovers. I've got these edges, and I try to use those up because, you know, they're all dimensional. I don't want to throw those in the trash because they can still be used, right? We want to make the most of all of our supplies. Another good thing about them being on the edge like this is I can cut them narrower. I could even cut a mini in half, but what I kind of want to do is get something that's going to fit in there. So if I cut this, I'm going to end up with a little piece. Let's even cut this in half. That is going to be the same dimensional, but I'm going to be able to stick this behind the little legs, making it fit right into there and not be seen from the front. And so it's going to give me some stability to my design by having some dimensionals down here. You could just leave them up here and let the legs dangle, and it's not really going to be an issue probably, but this is just one way that you can make it fit. Some people might think, oh, just use the self-adhesive foam strips, and the strips and the dimensionals are not the same height. I don't know why. It seems silly to me, but they're not. So if you're going to be using the strips, stick with the strips. If you're using the dimensionals, stick with the dimensionals. No idea why they're different, but they are. Okay. So I'm going to place that right on the front here. And then for the inside, I just did a little bit of stamping. So again, I'm going to bring in a sentiment, and then I'm going to bring in the little paint brushes. So I'm going to reach back into my stamp set. There's my words. And here's my paintbrushes. You know, I could have also used the yarn or the flowers. I mean, there's any number of things we could have used in here that are super cute. But let's just make it match. Trying to make sure this looks straight. Okay, that looks a little better to me. Okay, so this is the piece that's going to go right inside my card there. So I'm once again going to use the Berry Burst ink. I'm going to put that right up here in the middle. And then Smoky Slate for our little paintbrushes in the corner. I try to clean my stamps right away when using these photopolymers with the bright red inks because they do have a tendency to stain. So just trying to avoid that. Okay, now what I want to do is I want to just adhere this right in the middle. And if I trust myself, I can just go ahead and glue that down right there with an even border. I'm probably going to be okay. If you are worried that you're not going to be within this, it is a little bit smaller than the front. So you could put your adhesive on it, place it on the front so you know that it's hidden behind that panel, and then go ahead and just shut the card. Make sure I'm right side up. Okay, and so that is guaranteeing me that it's going to be hidden behind that panel. But that is card number 1 of our portrait flip card, or swing card, whichever you would want to call it. It could be either. Okay, just looking for questions. I try to keep an eye over there. This is the next one we're going to be working on. Same kind of card, other direction. So this one starts out with a card base that is 4 1/4 by 11. And then it is scored in half at the 5 1/2. So that would be our normal card if we were going with this kind of a fold. And then I scored it at 2 3/4, which is halfway across the front. So same kind of idea. Then I have our pieces. Oh, and I'm going to need some azure. This is Azure Afternoon. That's the color we're using here. This is 4 by 5 1/4. Again, from the Bright and Beautiful Designer Series paper. These are 2 1/2 by 4. And then I have for the inside, I'm going to need that white one that I just cut. So 4 1/4 by 3 is going to be my inside layer. And then I want a 4 1/2 by 3 1/4. Okay, so our little piece that we're adhering to the front for our swing portion, this is the same size on both cards. It's 4 1/2 by 3 1/4. Okay. Oh, come on, 4 1/2. I by 3 1/4. So this is indeed the same size. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to be taking 1/2 of an inch off all the way around. But we can go ahead and stick this down. This yellow in here is Lemon Lolly, which is pretty, but it doesn't pop very much against the white. It is very, like it blends in. I was playing around with some other cards, and I was doing with these strips. And I really like the layout and the fact that it's weaving in and out, but those are getting lost. So I don't know, maybe Lemon Lolly needs to be used against something different. Do you guys use that color much? I use it a lot for coloring, and I hadn't noticed before, but on the Designer Series paper, I don't know, I'm getting lost. Okay, so I have little scraps. This is going to be my little piece that the trimmer is cutting, and then I have the trimmer itself, and then I have the scissors, and then I'm going to do the scissors again in black with some adhesive sheet behind it so that I can glue those on, and then also this little black piece here. So those are pieces of our die set. Oops. And of course my scissors aren't right here, are they? I wonder if they're over there by my other cut and emboss. Interesting. It would be nice if I had all my pieces, right? Okay, so I'm going to use the basic or smoky slate for my trimmer itself, and then I'm going to cut it once again with just this piece. This right here, this is the little slider piece that slides up and down in the track. So I'm going to cut that in another color. So as you can see, it cut it out in the gray, but I wanted it in black. So I've also done this where I've even made this little track here, this a different color, or you can make the edges a different color. You would just cut more than one of them and then paper piece them together. Like you would take this, if you wanted the top and bottom to say be a darker gray, then you could just cut another one in darker gray and then cut along these score lines and then place it over the top, glue it over it. Okay. There's that little piece. Apparently I'm cleaning my office this afternoon because I don't see the scissors. They should be in there. let's do something different. I could just stamp the cut and emboss machine and we can put that to the side. That will work as well. These stamps have some texture to them, and so they're not going to be real solid. They have a little bit of texture to them, which I think is really nice. Make sure I'm using the scrap. Okay. So all I have to do is stamp once, and then look at all the dimension that that's giving me with the shading that they've already worked into the stamp itself. I think that's very helpful. All right. So we are ready for that. Now we're going to make our swing portion. So I'm going to bring in my trimmer once again, and we're going to take our card base and we're going to trim 1/2 inch off that side. And then we're going to do the same thing on the edges. We're going to go up 1/2 inch, just up to that score line. Flip it over, and then 1/2 inch. And then I'm going to use my paper snips and just snip off this part here. Okay, so there's my L bracket. This is the part that's going to do our swinging. This score line here is our hinge. I'm going to take our extra piece that we're going to glue on top. Again, 4.5 by 3 1/4. That's going to go right over the top of that. I'm putting a little more adhesive than normal because it's going to get a little bit of movement and I want it to stick well as it moves. And then I'm making sure I am flush here and I am flush on the sides. Okay, so now that part swings. Okay, I decided that for our piece back here, rather than using designer series paper or cardstock, I cut a piece of the grid paper to put into here because I liked the fact that it had the little Stampin' Up logo on it. I thought that was super cute. This paper with the smaller logo, this one up here is larger. You'll be able to see. This is the grid paper from the Stamparatus. If you guys have that, it was a little 6x6 pad of paper that came with the Stamparatus, and that's the grid paper that I'm using in order to utilize that little logo. Okay, so that was 4 1/4 by 3. We have our little trimmer here with our piece. So I'm peeling off the adhesive sheet from the back. And then I'm going to, let's see, this was this way. Set this down, and I'm aligning that little line in the middle of this piece with the track. So it looks like it would just slide right up into that track. And then this little piece lifts up, so I'm able to take my designer series paper and just feed it through there and make it look like it's a piece we're going to be cutting. Okay, and then we can stick this here and decide where we want all of our little pieces to go. I might still look for those scissors. They have to be here somewhere because I have less room since I don't want to cover up my logo. But you would just decorate the front of your card. Everything's going to come out the same, regardless of what you use as your focal point. I'm putting my adhesive across that direction because I want my piece in the middle here, my designer series paper, to stay still. And then I had little buttons that I used over here. I'll probably cut a few more of those. Or if I was using like the sewing machine, I could be using these little spools of thread. Aren't those cute? Again, I used adhesive sheet on the Calypso coral part of it, and then the crumb cake is just there. But that was dies out of this set. That's what these are right here. These are the spools, and then this is the thread. There's another thread over here and more spools. So you get 2 of each of those, and then these are the buttons that I used right here. This is one die, but it's going to cut out both the round and the square buttons. This would be a ruler, a sewing machine. This is the flowers. This is the yarn. This is the basket the yarn would go into. A hoop for embroidery. This cuts out the paintbrushes. Just tons of good stuff we can use out of this. This is the stamped basket. Tons of stuff. So I have options, plenty of options. Again, on the inside, I used the same idea that I stamped my sentiment onto the white paper. So azure afternoon. And then in order to make sure that it's placed in the middle, I can either glue it down straight like that, or I can add my adhesive. Place it behind that little door that's going to cover up the front of my card. And then just close it. And it's going to stick to the inside. So a few more buttons and find my scissor die, and we will have an adorable card that does this swing flip kind of thing. So what do you think? Do you like it in the landscape or in the portrait, or both? Is this something you're going to be giving a try? I did this for our team meeting yesterday, and I was using up some old designer series paper, and I pulled out my cheerful daisies. So there's that one that I did. And then this morning I had some of the trusty tools. I had all die cut. I just had these little pieces sitting around. And so I dug through my stash and I found some of the trusty tools designer series paper, which was one of the celebration items last year. And I made this one. So in here, this was the one paintbrush and it was a little too big. I didn't like the way it was so prominent on here. So I decided to just cut it in half. And then I put half over here and half over here. And I think it looks kind of cool. It looks like little bookends. Just something different. Okay, so I will do our drawing and figure out who our winner is for today's card and for Thursday's card. I'm sorry I don't have that name drawn already. I should have. I'm so used to being able to spin the wheel at the end, and when they took that away from me, I'm all thrown off. So thank you for everyone for being here. Thursday is our Stamping Made Simple. And so Thursday's card will not use dies. It's going to be just stamps and punches. And we will be playing around with a technique called the faux tile technique. I don't know if you guys have done this one before, but I just scored on the cardstock and then stamped on it. So this is what we're doing on Thursday. So come back and play with me again. Thank you so much, and I will see you on Thursday. Bye.